Right, so this is part of my live rig. We're in lockdown, so I can't have the whole thing inside the house because I blow out windows and deafen neighbors. My primary guitar sound comes from the Victory V40. It's an all valve amp, rated at 50 watts. Really warm sounding, very clean. Definitely not designed for heavy music. Makes it even better using it. My second guitar amp, because I run in stereo, is the PV Mark III Centurion. It's actually a bass amp, but it works really well with baritone guitars and low tuning. Then my bass amp is a PV Musician Mark III. It's an old 1978 400 watt special, really loud, earth-shattering, great tone on it. I'm currently running through two 2x12, so I've got my bass side and my guitar side on one channel coming through. Normally I would run the Musician through a Marshall 4x12, I'd run the Victory through the Laneys, and the PV would run through a bass cab. And that generally faces Pauline and makes her grimace when I turn it up. This is my primary guitar. It's a Hagstrom Viking baritone. It was the last guitar I thought I wanted up until I played it. And seeing as it was made famous by Elvis, the King of Doom, well, yeah, it's a great instrument. I've had it modified, I've had a Bigsby attached to it. You can't get the baritone models with the tremolo from Hagstrom. I've also had a coil tap put into the humbucker to give me a more traditional single coil sound. Great instrument, really comfortable, incredibly versatile. Then we have the Fender Blacktop baritone. This has been modified by its previous owner. It's had the pickups replaced and it's now a really hot output instrument. I tended in the studio to use this to do all of our heavier songs just because it's got so much snarl and bite on it. It's also an incredibly heavy instrument, so I don't tend to play it on stage as much as the others just because of the weight of it. Then we have my backup. It's an LTD 201 baritone. Bottom end of the range, but a really good, solidly made instrument. I've swapped the pickups out on it to be similar to the Hagstrom, so they're nice vintage low output pickup. I think I'm starting to see a theme here with the vintage stuff. And I've also put a coil split into this to give me some very brittle single coil tones. If you listen to Jeff, you can hear this guitar in all its glory. And then finally, we have this beastie. This bass did the majority of the bass work for Sisyphus. It's a Mexican 5-string bass. The beauty of this is most Fender 5-string basses are active. This is passive, really low output pickups. Sounds fantastic with a fuzz pedal. Absolutely love this bass. Right, so this is my bass side of my pedal board. So I say I play in stereo, my signal comes in into an orange, it gets split at that point, runs through a bass board which goes out to the bass amp, then runs through to the guitar side of the board, which we'll get to in a bit. The first thing I go through on this is a sub and up, which takes my guitar sound and drops it an octave. Really simple. I've then got dirt and more dirt. That dot is absolutely fantastic with low frequencies. I've got a chorus pedal, which I use for various intros. It just fattens up and doubles the sound. I've got a synthesizer, which is an absolute great toy. I bought that just before we went into the studio. We ended up using it in a couple of tracks. And then of course I've got a compressor at the end because, well, it's a bass type sound. You want to keep it as even as possible. So normal sound for us on the bass end would be compressor on, sub and up on, and more compression from the dirt. This is the guitar side of my board. As you can see, it's a mix of analog and digital. Ignoring this, which my vocals go through, and for live work, we have signal comes in into a volume pedal. It never turns the volume completely off. It's just really used for swells and fades. It then runs into this chain of dirt pedals. First of all, we have the old Metal Zone, the most hated and reviled pedal in the world. It's an absolutely fantastic pedal if you sit and play with it. It then goes into a blunderbuss, which is a type of big muff. And then, wait, another crossover. I absolutely love this fuzz pedal. On guitar and on bass, it's brilliant. I've got the two set up, use them completely differently. A Rat, this isn't a genuine Rat. I use the black teeth here because it's just really small and it fits nicely in that spot on the pedal board. From there we go into the Helix, which was bought to simplify my life because I used to play on an entirely massive analog board and had to use a multi-pedal stomp tap dance during live gigs. So now most of the stuff is on the Helix. My Helix pretty much does all my EQ, my gain stacking, modulation effects, like an old-fashioned unit vibe. I have an analog delay in one of the loops of the Helix. The reason being is I like being able to play with the feedback and delay on it, which the Helix is pretty good at, but it's not analog. And I have a ring modulator plugged into the other loop, which I use for other songs. And then finally, an expression pedal, which is a post volume and or wah and or whammy, depending on what mood I'm in at the time. The final little piece is this. It was made for me by Rome from Keldamp Works, because I tended to break my 1 amp, bashing it to get that lovely crashing reverb sound. So Pauline used a thunder stick at the end of the Desert song, and unfortunately she won't get an extra arm to do it live. So we had this made. It's also great fun on stage when you get to kick it around a lot.